The xenobiology complex of the Galactic Academy floated serenely in the Andromeda educational sector, its crystalline spires catching the light of 3 different suns. Unlike the sterile research stations that dotted the outer rim, this facility bustled with life from across known space. The corridors hummed with the chittering of Veltarian scholars, the melodic tones of symphonic crystallites, and the occasional thunderous footstep of a visiting Titan researcher. Jenny Martinez adjusted her Earth-standard backpack as she navigated the Academy's bioadaptive hallways, which shifted their gravity and atmosphere to accommodate whatever species happened to be walking through. As the only human in the advanced xenobiology program, she'd grown accustomed to the curious stares and the way conversations seemed to pause when she passed. Today, however, she was genuinely excited. Finally, a lecture on something she actually knew about. Professor Zilthresh's classroom was legendary throughout the Academy. The Calraxian professor had spent 3 centuries cataloging the most dangerous flora across 200 worlds, and his Death World survival curriculum had a mortality rate that would have been concerning if it weren't for the excellent medical bay. The lecture hall itself was a marvel of defensive engineering force fields, emergency teleporters, and atmospheric scrubbers that could neutralize everything from nerve toxins to reality-warping spores. As Jenny entered, she noticed the unusual tension in the room. Her classmates had positioned themselves further from the demonstration area than usual. Klexter, a normally fearless voidwalker, had actually moved 3 rows back. Even the professor seemed more cautious as he activated multiple containment fields around his specimen table. Today, Professor Zilthresh announced in his distinctive harmonic voice, "We study the botanical nightmares of Sol 3, commonly known as Earth." His 6 crystalline eyes swept across the assembled students, lingering momentarily on Jenny. This death world has produced flora so violently toxic that even the hardiest species should approach with extreme caution. A nervous flutter ran through the class. Silmara, Jenny's photosynthetic study partner, dimmed her natural bioluminescence to barely visible levels. The professor's manipulator arms delicately lifted a sealed container, and the room's automated systems immediately began cycling to maximum filtration. "Behold," he intoned, "the Ricinus communis, the castor bean. Just 3 of these seeds contain enough ricin to kill most sentient life forms. The toxin breaks down cellular proteins, causing organ failure within hours." The containment field hummed ominously as he displayed the innocent-looking mottled seeds. Jenny pulled out her lunch bag, the crinkling of the bioplastic unnaturally loud in the silent room. She'd packed her usual assortment of earth foods, including some snacks her mom had sent from home. As the professor continued his dire warnings about ricin poisoning, she absently reached for her trail mix, picking out the familiar shapes she'd been eating since childhood. She popped a few items into her mouth, chewing thoughtfully as she listened to the lecture. The crunching sound seemed to echo in the otherwise silent chamber. Slowly, very slowly, every single alien head turned to stare at her. Professor Zilthresher's harmonic voice faltered mid-sentence as he noticed his human student casually consuming what appeared to be the exact specimens he'd just declared universally lethal. His crystalline eyes began to strobe in what Jenny had learned was the Calrexian equivalent of panic. The silence in the lecture hall stretched like a taut wire, broken only by Jenny's continued chewing. Professor Zilthresh's usually melodious voice had dropped to a horrified whisper as he watched his human student apparently consuming death itself. "Miss Martinez," he said slowly, his 6 crystalline eyes fixed on her mouth, "please tell me you are not currently ingesting Ricinus communis seeds." Jenny looked up from her trail mix, a few stray pieces still in her palm. "Oh, these?" She held up what the professor now realized were castor beans mixed in with various nuts and dried fruits. "Yeah, my grandmother always puts these in her trail mix," They're a little bitter, but they add a nice crunch. Want some? The offer sent ripples of terror through the assembled students. Klexter, the Void Walker, actually phased partially out of reality in his panic. Silmara's bioluminescence flared so bright, she temporarily blinded the student next to her. Nobody move. Professor Zilfresh commanded, his harmonic voice cracking into discordant frequencies. Medical emergency protocols, level 7. We have a human in apparent toxic shock who may be experiencing suicidal delusions. Emergency lights began flashing as the Academy's medical systems came online. Jenny looked around in confusion as blast barriers began descending around the classroom. Guys, what's wrong? I mean, you have to process them properly. Grandmother always soaks them and roasts them first to break down the what? The professor shrieked, his crystalline form actually beginning to vibrate with stress. His usually pristine lecture notes scattered as his manipulator arm shook. The ricin, obviously, Jenny said matter-of-factly, reaching for her water bottle. You can't eat them raw. Well, I mean, you technically could, but it would be really stupid. That's why traditional preparation methods exist. Dr. Heshtick, the Academy's chief medical officer, materialized via emergency teleporter, his crystalline form shifting rapidly through the spectrum as he scanned for toxins. Where is the patient? I'm reading massive ricin concentrations in the air, but the human appears to be. Fine. Jenny waved cheerfully at the medical officer. Hi, Dr. Heshtick. False alarm, I think. Professor Zilfresh seems really worried. About my snack. She held up her trail mix again, causing 3 more students to faint. Your snack, Dr. Heshtick repeated slowly, his optical sensors focusing on the mixture of what he now realized were properly prepared earth toxins. You're eating prepared death seeds as a casual food? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds away. More dramatic than it is, Jenny laughed. Humans have been eating these for thousands of years. My great-great-grandmother's recipe dates back to the old country. You just have to know what you're doing. Professor Zilfresh was making a sound that his species typically reserved for witnessing cosmic horrors. Miss Martinez, he managed, are you telling me that humans have domesticated one of the galaxy's most potent biotoxins for recreational consumption? I mean, I wouldn't call it recreational, Jenny mused, crunching thoughtfully. It's more like ... practical? They're really nutritious once you process them right. High protein, good fats. Though I guess technically chocolate is recreational consumption of a toxin, now that I think about it. The mention of chocolate caused Dr. Heshtick to immediately begin scanning for theobromine levels. You consume chocolate? Regularly? Pretty much daily, Jenny admitted. I've got some in my bag if you want to see it, but I was saving it for after lunch. The collective gasp from her classmates was audible even through the emergency barriers. Professor Zilfresh had to sit down or, rather, anchor himself to the floor using his species' natural crystalline root feet. In his 3 centuries of studying deadly flora, he had never encountered a situation quite this disturbing. His human students sat calmly in the middle of what should have been a mass casualty toxic exposure event, asking if anyone wanted to share her snacks. Perhaps, he said, his harmonic voice carefully controlled, we should continue with the lesson. Maybe seeing more examples will help us understand the magnitude of this situation. The emergency barriers retracted slowly, though Dr. Heshtick remained on standby. His medical sensors locked on to Jenny. The professor activated his next holographic display, showing a beautiful flowering shrub with delicate pink and white blossoms. Oleander, he announced. Every part of this plant contains cardiac glycosides. Contact with even the smallest amount can cause immediate cardiac arrest in most species. The nectar alone. Oh, I love oleander. Jenny interrupted brightly. My neighbor has a huge hedge of it. Really pretty flowers. Though you have to be careful around pets and small children, obviously. She reached into her lunch bag again. Speaking of pretty flowers, look what my mom packed. She pulled out small container filled with what appeared to be colorful petals mixed into a salad. The classroom's atmospheric processors immediately began screaming warnings about multiple toxic compounds detected. Asterisk, those are flower petals, stammered Quilex, a normally composed geometric entity whose angles were becoming increasingly acute with stress. Nasturtiums, violas, and rose petals, Jenny confirmed, forking up a mouthful. They're totally edible. Great in salads, and the nasturtiums have a nice peppery kick. She chewed appreciatively while her classmates watched. In horror, Professor Zilthresh consulted his notes with trembling manipulator arms. According to my research, Earth flora contains numerous defensive compounds specifically designed to prevent consumption by animals. Well, yeah, Jenny agreed, but humans are persistence predators. We figured out how to eat basically everything on our planet, even the stuff that doesn't want to be eaten. It's kind of our thing. Dr. Heshtig's scanners were working overtime, detecting compound after compound that should have been lethal. The human appears to be metabolizing everything normally, he reported in disbelief. Liver function optimal, no signs of toxicity. It's as if these compounds are completely inert to human biology. Thousands of years of evolutionary pressure, Jenny explained matter-of-factly, plus selective breeding, processing techniques, and really good recipes passed down through generations. My grandmother always said that anything that grows from the earth can feed you if you know how to treat it right. The professor activated his next display, showing delicate purple flowers with distinctive bell shapes. Atropa belladonna, he said weakly. Deadly nightshade. The alkaloids, same family as tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplant, Jenny interrupted, pulling out a small container of cherry tomatoes. The nightshade family is super useful. You just have to know which parts to eat and which to avoid. She bit into a bright red cherry tomato, the juice running down her chin. Silmara, who had been trying to process this information through her plant-based neural networks, suddenly flared so bright that the automatic filters kicked in. You're eating the reproductive organs of toxic plants as casual snacks, she wailed. I mean, technically, most fruits are reproductive organs, Jenny pointed out. And vegetables are usually other plant parts, roots, stems, leaves. We eat pretty much every part of a plant at some point. She offered the container around. Anyone want to try? They're really sweet. The offer caused a minor stampede toward the exits, with several students actually teleporting away rather than risk proximity to Jenny's apparently suicidal snacking. Habits. Professor Zilthresh realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic academia, a completely peaceful first contact scenario that was somehow more terrifying than any Death World expedition he'd ever cataloged. Asterisk by now. Word had spread throughout the academy. Students and faculty from other departments had begun gathering outside the xenobiology classroom, watching through blast-proof windows as Jenny continued her lunch. The viewing area resembled a disaster response command center more than an academic facility. Professor Zilthresh had abandoned all pretense of normal instruction. His carefully planned lecture had devolved into a real-time case study of what the Academy's xenopsychologists were already calling human adaptive consumption syndrome. His crystalline form had taken on a distinctly stressed frequency, causing the classroom's harmonic dampeners to work overtime. Let me understand this correctly, he said, his voice tight with barely controlled academic horror. Your species has not only survived exposure to these biotoxins, you have actively sought them out, cultivated them, and incorporated them into your cultural food traditions. Pretty much, Jenny agreed, pulling out another container. Though, biotoxins makes it sound scarier than it is. We just call it food. She opened the lid to reveal bright green stalks. Like this rhubarb, the leaves are super poisonous because of the oxalic acid, but the stems are delicious. Great in pies, jams, or just raw with a little salt. She crunched into a raw rhubarb stalk, and the sound echoed through the silent classroom. Like breaking bones. 3 more students excused themselves, claiming sudden onset of academic stress syndrome. The leaves, Professor Zilthresh repeated slowly, are poisonous. Yeah, they'll mess you up pretty bad, Jenny said casually. But humans figured out which parts were safe thousands of years ago. Same with potatoes, the green parts and sprouts are toxic because of solanine, but the tubers are fine. Just don't eat the green ones. Dr. Heshtick was furiously taking notes, his medical database struggling to process the implications. Your species has developed parallel toxin-resistant systems for multiple unrelated compound families? I guess. I mean, I'm not a biochemist, Jenny shrugged. I just know what my family taught me, and what their families taught them. Like, never eat wild mushrooms unless you really know what you're doing. Always prepare cassava properly to get rid of the cyanide. Don't eat too much nutmeg at once, because it's psychoactive. Cyanide? Dr. Heshtick's phone flashed bright red. You consume cyanogenic compounds regularly. Jenny reached into her bag and pulled out a small container of mixed nuts. Almonds have amygdalin, which breaks down into cyanide. But the amounts are tiny, and anyway, most commercial almonds are the sweet variety that has even less. Wild, bitter almonds are the ones you have to worry about. She popped a few into her mouth. These are fine. The assembled observers outside the classroom were taking bets on whether they were witnessing the most impressive display of human adaptability or the slowest suicide in galactic history. Professor Zilthresh activated his final, most dire warning. Slide. Perhaps, he said desperately, we should discuss the universally fatal compound found in theobroma cacao. No known species can safely process theobromine in significant quantities. It causes immediate cardiac failure across all tested physiologies. Oh, chocolate! Jenny's face lit up. Perfect timing. I was saving this for dessert. She pulled out a dark chocolate bar, the wrapper crinkling ominously in the silent room. No! Dr. Heshtick shouted, lunging forward with medical restraints. Miss Martinez, step away from the theobromine. That much concentrated toxin could kill half the station. Jenny paused with the chocolate halfway to her mouth. Guys, seriously? It's fine. Humans eat chocolate all the time. I probably have some every day. Dark chocolate is supposed to be good for you, antioxidants and stuff. She took a large bite, chewing thoughtfully while the assembled alien academics watched in absolute terror. The chocolate's rich flavor filled her mouth as she savored it, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just consumed what every other species in the galaxy considered a weapon of mass destruction. Delicious, she pronounced finally, offering the bar around. Anyone want some? It's 70% cacao, not too sweet. The evacuation sirens began blaring immediately. 3 hours later, Jenny sat alone in the empty classroom, finishing her lunch while the Academy's crisis management team held emergency sessions in adjacent rooms. Through the blast-proof windows, she could see various department heads gesticulating wildly at holographic displays showing her complete meal consumption data. Professor Zilthresh finally returned, accompanied by Dean Mordith and what appeared to be the entire Academy Safety Board. The professor's crystalline form had stabilized somewhat, though he still maintained a notably greater distance from Jenny than usual. Miss Martens, Dean Mordith began, her ancient ethereal form shifting through several visible spectrums. We need to discuss the implications of today's S. demonstration. Was I not supposed to eat lunch during class? Jenny asked, genuinely confused. I thought the Academy had flexible meal policies for species with different dietary schedules. It's not the timing, Professor Zilthresh said carefully. It's the contents. Jenny, in the past 3 hours, you have consumed what we calculate to be 17 different categories of biotoxins, 3 known carcinogens, 4 neurotoxic compounds, and enough theobromine to kill a small starship crew. And you appear to be completely fine, Dr. Heshtig added, his medical scanners still focused on her. Better than fine, actually. Your metabolism is optimal, your neural function is enhanced, and your cardiovascular system is actually performing. Above baseline, Jenny shrugged. I feel fine. Actually, I feel pretty good. The chocolate always gives me a little energy boost. The assembled academics exchanged glances that somehow managed to convey 3 centuries' worth of scientific confusion. Dean Mordeth spoke first. Jenny, we're going to need to completely revise our understanding of human biology, and our safety protocols, and probably our entire xenobiology curriculum. We're also going to need you to teach a class, Professor. Zilthresh added reluctantly. Several classes, actually. The Department of Interspecies Relations wants a full seminar series on human dietary, immunities and their cultural applications. The Department of Evolutionary Biology has requested a lecture on adaptive consumption as survival strategy. And the Department of Chemistry wants you to demonstrate safe handling procedures for what they're calling human food-grade toxins. Really? Jenny perked up. That sounds fun. I've got loads of family recipes I could share. My grandmother's ghost pepper salsa, my uncle's famous cassava cake, my cousin's homemade limoncello ... Ghost peppers? Dr. Heshtig interrupted weakly. Capsaicin. Compound concentration off the charts. Professor Zilthresh muttered, consulting his notes. Causes immediate respiratory failure in most atmospheric breathers. Oh, they're not that bad once you build up a tolerance, Jenny said cheerfully. I've got some hot sauce in my bag if you want to try. No, came the unified response from every alien in the room. Dean Mordeth cleared her throat. We'll also be adding a new required course to the Academy curriculum, Human Cultural Practices. When evolution becomes weaponized through cuisine, you'll be teaching it. And we're installing a new warning system, Dr. Heshtig added. Any time a human enters a dining facility, all non-human students will be alerted so they can maintain safe distances from the food preparation areas.